Football Talk Squadron, I'm Dutch.
And I'm Pops.
Welcome to week 7 of NFL action. Going to be getting into it, going through the games. Before we get into them, just because the team's on a bye, I'll get into the Bills here in a minute. Sorry. Let me get the Jeopardy screen up. I'm already itching because I got some things to say after going and watching them just get decimated by Atlanta. We got 3 categories remaining. We got NFL rookies, Super Bowl history, NFL records. These are, in my opinion, way tougher than the college ones. Pops nailed the college episode we just filmed, doing pretty well in that trivia. So I'll give you the honors of which category you want to go with.
Yeah, let's go Super Bowl history.
Super Bowl history for 100. What team scored the most points in Super Bowl history?
What year was it?
This was it's really pre us watching. I'll put it that. In terms of this game was in the early 90s, I believe. It's the same team. The same team has scored plus 50 in a game twice.
I mean, if you're going to say the 90s, there's only 2 teams that I can think of. I'll go 49ers.
San Francisco 49ers. This one was the early one in 1990. They scored the 55 points against the Broncos, January 28th. So nice pull on that one. They also, I believe, put up 57 points against the Chargers with Steve Young. 200. Name the 2 teams tied for the most Super Bowl losses.
Is the Bills one?
No.
Really? I mean, four in a row. You think that?
I believe. I haven't looked at these in a hot second, but I remember that this I felt was a trick.
Man, I'm trying to think. I mean, I would say.
I know it's not the Bills now because the answer's not 4.
Yeah. I mean, Brady had a couple. You know, if you think of who's been there the most and not one, you know, I would almost say New England would be one.
Okay.
AFC or NFC for the other one?
I don't remember. Sorry, I don't get that. I can't reveal that. I can't see the answer without revealing it. Let me give me 1 second.
I mean, the only other team.
So New England is one, and the other team is in the AFC. We have seen them win a Super Bowl and lose a Super Bowl.
Well, I think we've seen them win a couple because you also got John Elway as well. So I'll take Denver Broncos.
Boom! New England and Denver are tied for the most with 5 losses each.
And that's crazy, man, because when you think of it from a script, you think, well, Buffalo Bills have to be there because they lost 4 in a row.
Well, for you, this goes back to Super Bowl 20. You got the Bears beating the Patriots that year, murdering them. Patriots lost again to the Packers with Bill Parcells and Favre. That was Favre's first championship. And then we
saw 2 with Brady or 3 with Brady.
We saw the Eagles that he lost to, and then who else? And then twice to the Giants. So there's your 5.
Yeah.
All right, the $300. True or false? A punt has been returned for a touchdown in the Super Bowl.
I mean, I've seen kickoffs, but man, this is such a creepy question. I'm gonna say just because you put it up here, it's going to be false. Nobody's done it yet.
False. That I don't know if you remember, but Kadarius Toney almost broke one for the Chiefs, and they talked about it during that game. They were like, if he had done it, it was the first punt to ever be returned in a Super Bowl. If he
And
had done it.
now my man's getting arrested on the streets.
Oh, is he getting for what? Having bricks for hands?
Well, I think so.
The 400 one. Who scored the longest touchdown in Super Bowl history?
Was it a kick return?
It was a kick return.
Give me Devin Hester.
Is not Devin Hester. It was
Dang it. Was
Jacoby
it Jacoby?
Jones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Out of the back of the end zone.
Yep.
Yeah.
Ravens in that Mercedes Benz where the halftime show knocked out or not even a halftime show. They blamed
voodoo.
it on that, but the lights went
voodoo.
out.
Yeah, dude, it was that voodoo. Rest in peace, Jacoby.
500. What Super Bowl matchup cannot occur again given the current conference alignments? And to put this, just to give you a hint, this was a Jeopardy question, and they gave a little bit more detail. It's in the first 5 Super Bowls. One of these matchups occurred that will never be able to occur again given the current alignment.
Was it Jets and Chiefs?
Jets didn't play the Chiefs, so I'll give you a correct just to correct that. You have
so Jets is one of them.
Yeah.
Did they play the Steelers early on?
No.
All right.
It was the Namath game. So it is Super Bowl 3. Who did they play? And now they are an AFC team.
Well, the Oilers were still.
They were in a
AFC.
different city during this.
Was it? Well, was it Baltimore?
Yes, it was the Baltimore Colts. Jets versus Colts cannot happen again.
And that was the thing that I was going for, but I was like, well, the Colts stayed in the AFC. You know, they just went from Baltimore to Indy. But
well, yeah, and the Jets went from the Jets, I believe, were the AFC team. Yeah, AFL team, because that Super Bowl 3 is what really got the NFL to merge with the AFL and become one banner under the NFL shield. A lot of things occurred from that game that made the NFL what it is today. That being said, getting into week 7, and as I said, I was going to, because they are on a bye, I do want to talk about. So
the floor is yours.
Yeah, went and watched the Bills play. And I will start off saying it as clear as I can because I am wearing a Steelers pullover today. The Steelers are the only team in the AFC right now, in my opinion, that are capable of beating the Chiefs and keeping them out of the Super Bowl. The Bills aren't it. Going into last week, I would have said the Bills are the best threat. And me and my buddy who went to the game, we both thought that. That game highlighted I would say they are huge red flags for the Bills. The very first being that defense is atrocious. I know you were probably watching your Bears, and we'll get into them here in a second, but from a standpoint, and here's where the Bills messed up on a defense. We knew after they lost to that game against Kansas City, the defense was a problem. And so what did the Bills do? They went out and hired Von Miller, who was a great name, but was coming off a leg injury with the Rams and was never the same player. They cut Von Miller this past season after not doing anything. And what did they do? They hired a name again in Joey Bosa. Joey Bosa was a non-factor in the game versus Atlanta in terms of making these big plays that you need to get the ball back in the Josh Allen's hands. I think Ed Oliver is very good at defensive tackle. The issue is their secondary and especially their linebackers are awful. Milano's going to come back. I just don't know if Milano's going to be enough to salvage the problems they have in other things. I mean, both Drake and Bijan had over 100 yards receiving and rushing, not each, but Drake had over 100 yards. He had almost 160 yards receiving in the first half. Bijan had over 130 yards rushing in the first half with that 81-yard touchdown. They could have easily ran the Bills out of the building. And the Bills couldn't do anything to stop it. Bills ran zone coverage for the majority of the night. And the only thing that helped the Bills defense was Penix being inaccurate with the football. The Falcons had their way with that Bills defense to the point that me and my buddy were looking in the stands and we're like, dude, going into a bye week, they got to make some trades. Like the only way the Bills are going to get to where they want to be in a Super Bowl defensively is they need to sell house and they got to go get some guys. Period. Period. If they don't, Bills ain't going. Then the scary thing was on offense. So Dalton Kincaid was out last night. Josh Palmer gets hurt at the beginning of the game after a really good catch. Doesn't come back in the game. They legitimately, when you go to their depth chart on ESPN, like go to Tampa Bay's depth chart, and you're just like, dude, they have stacks of wide receivers, like stacks. And it's why Godwin and Evans are out, and they still look lethal because they have all these guys. The Bills, however, have Keon Coleman, they have Shakur, and they have Shavers. There was a majority of time last night that they legitimately had Knox and then their third string tight end out there with a fullback lined up as a wide receiver because they do not have wide receivers. Like that's it. Without Palmer and without Curtis Samuel, who are both injured now, they don't have anybody. And I wasn't even really a Buffalo Bills fan until I went up to Buffalo last year with my buddy, and I enjoyed it so much. You know, me and him have been going to a game every year, and this was the game that we to mock off the Atlanta stadium tour. You could not watch that game and not sit back and go, dude, you know what would be great right now? If the Bills hadn't traded Kansas City and instead of taking Xavier Worthy. Because Keon has no speed. And people are like, well, he's a big body receiver. It's like when you say that, like immediately in your mind, you're like, you know, that's Megatron, that's Julio. My man's not physical. He's big body, don't get me wrong. There's no physicality in him. I say all that to say this. The Bills are in danger of even making the playoffs. They've lost once to the Patriots. They have to go to New England again. If they don't make serious changes, they are going to lose against any team that can run the football. And I get Bajan is probably one of the better top 3 backs in the NFL. Super talented. Put him right up there with Saquon, C-Mac, Henry. Super difficult to stop. But from a standpoint of what I saw last night, dude, the Bills are going to struggle hardcore for the rest of the season. Big red flags.
Well, and I think this is where, we kind of discussed it last season, when we were making predictions and talking about cap space and all that other kind of jazz. And like the Bills have positioned themselves in an awful spot as far as being able to go out and get these types of guys. And, the only thing that I can say, like, yeah, we've talked about wasting the money on those big players. That stat last year with Von Miller was making, for the time he was on the field, he was making like $30,000 a snap, just because he was hardly ever on the field. And, it was just things like that. And with Keon Coleman, they talked about him, coming out of college, that he was the big guy that if you needed a 50-50 ball, he was going to go up and get. But we saw it last season, and now it's going to show through even more this season. I think he's caught more contested this season than he did last season, but he's still not what they thought he was going to be coming out of college. And I think that's where, again, like you talked about, they messed up. They went and got Curtis Samuel in the offseason, and he's just not that speed guy anymore. He's been around the league long enough. He's not the same as, your Rashee Rice, your Xavier Worthy, a pick that you could have had, and they've just missed out.
And you talk about the salary cap. I just wanted to pull it up. The Bills are third from the bottom. They are just above the Giants and Dolphins. They only have $2 million of cap space. Puts you in a hole. Very difficult to get out of that. They've got $31 million in dead money right now. Their active cap spending's at 243. And just to put that into perspective, and this is what should scare Bills fans, who's the number one team with cap space? The Patriots, sitting there with 54 million. Like it ebbs and flows, and the fact that they can now go get guys for Vrabel. And the bigger point is, we said that my buddy brought up a stat that I had not heard before. You're gonna love this. A quarterback and a head coach who are together a minimum of 5 years that do not win a Super Bowl in those 5 years have never won a Super Bowl if they continue after that.
Hmm.
So,
and this is year 5 with McDermott.
yeah. And you sit back and look at that. McDermott is not the guy. He's the James Franklin of the NFL. Like, and prove me wrong. The Bills can't win the game that they need to win, which is the Chiefs in the playoffs. They just can't get it done. And I sit back and look at it, and it's like, what is he? Is he a defensive guy? I sure hope not, because if he is, we got major red flags. Is he an offensive guy? I don't even think it's that. And the reason I say that is
They got Joe Brady.
Yeah, that, and the Ravens are on a bye too this week, and I saw this tweet and I was like, God, that's accurate. We need to sing Lamar Jackson's praises more, because without Lamar, the team's 0-16. Period. Lamar makes that team better. Josh isn't there, and it's sort of like Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow and then win 2 games. Since that point, the Bengals look like absolute hot garbage. If you took Josh Allen out of this lineup, the Bills are one of the worst teams in the NFL. Period. Like, the roster is awful. Awful. And somehow they're third from the bottom in cap. So I sit back and look at it and I go, Josh is willing the team to victory. You're not giving him the pieces offensively. You trade away picks. It's twice now that the Bills have traded the Chiefs. One ended, as we just talked about, for Xavier Worthy, and the other one before that ended up with the Chiefs getting Patrick Mahomes. So maybe the Bills should take a note and not trade the Chiefs anymore when it comes to the NFL draft.
Well, and just to talk about it, I think we've mentioned it before, is that when Josh Allen has a bad game, the team loses. Like that's what it boils down to, and we're only going to continue to see that more and more. Like, he threw 2 picks last night. Hardly. I don't think he had 200 yards in the air, as well as last week against New England. He wasn't. He only turned the ball over. He threw 1 interception last week, but he played like garbage last week as well. And it's just like 2 back-to-back weeks, and big games that matter. And without him, that team is just like you said with Lamar and the Ravens.
The left side of the line could not block for him. I saw 47% pass rush, and I would say that is even being conservative, because it felt like every play he was getting pressure off that left side. So they got a lot of work to do in the bye. That being said, going into week 7, Thursday night, Steelers, Bengals. Steelers -5.5. Another week of Joe Flacco, who got the ball to his playmakers. They still lost, but they looked a lot better than they did under Browning. Can Joe Flacco get a victory at home on Thursday night?
I don't think so. I mean, I just like the way that the Steelers are playing. We had some question marks early in the season, as far as how Rodgers was going to play, but my man's ripping smelling salts and just dealing the ball to DK and the players around him. And I think they finally figured out the defense, because that was the question mark in the loss that they had, earlier this season, as well as even when they played the Jets opening week. There was question marks surrounding the defense of being able to stop opposing offenses. They beat the Steelers, they beat the Vikings, and then they handedly beat the Browns just 2 days ago. And I think Mike Tomlin said it best. It's like, it says a lot about an organization to trade a guy, your starting quarterback, who you brought in, by the way. You brought him in to fill in for a transition period with the quarterback position. And again, we can talk about the laundry list of quarterbacks that the Browns have had over, the past decade and a half. But to trade him to the Bengals, a division rival, says what you think about him. And I don't think he still has enough in the tank, and like we talked about, I was like, why is my man still playing? And you guys said it best, is like millions can motivate you to do anything, and I think it's cool to see an old guy still playing. He's definitely very immobile in the pocket. Like as soon as that pocket collapses, he's got to get rid of the ball or he's taking the sack, But I don't think with the way the Steelers are playing right now, they're grooving. I think they get the win on Thursday night.
I I agree with you. Rodgers has looked tremendous. They've the ability to run the football. Warren come back for them is huge. Caleb Johnson, he's just young rookie running back. He's not, you know, wowing anyone. I think he's doing what he needs to get better in the league. But Warren really runs the ball very effectively. It's why they let Najee go because Warren was that guy. As long as the Steelers can run the football and heads up, the Bengals defense sucks. Steelers should have their way with the Bengals. Just I don't see it going any other way.
And I'm just looking back just because, I didn't want to make a statement off the cuff without doing a little bit of research. But Aaron Rodgers is not throwing 300 yards a game
No,
anymore. Like all that he's doing is getting the balls to the guys that he needs to when he has the time to do it. And the rest of it, the way they're just letting Tomlin call the offense, running the ball, establishing the run. And then when Aaron needs to flick it in there, the way that he does, dude, I don't understand his flick. Like even Tom Brady, everybody's greatest of all time says the best thrower I've ever seen is Aaron Rodgers, and he can still do it at 40.
without
Like
dude,
it's so impressive.
Aaron Rodgers throws the prettiest football I've ever got to see growing up. I know some people would say Marino, which I can't argue, but I just didn't get to see Marino, for his entire career like I have Rodgers.
Yeah, I saw the back end throwing nothing but interceptions.
Oh man, Rip. All right, Sunday got last game at London. Rams Jags. Rams minus 2.5 point. Jags sort of come back to earth. I called Seattle winning the game. Feel good about that. Just the thing that led me down that path was yes, did the Jags beat the Chiefs? For sure. The Jags were one pick six away from going down by 2 scores.
Yeah.
That one pick six changed the whole atmosphere of the game. It was a 14-point swing. And if you just sort of look at the game outside of that one moment, you go, Chiefs probably win that game. I sit back and look at it with the Rams Jags. The thing that makes me nervous for the Rams right now is Puka's injury. You're just losing some talent on the wide receiver standpoint that I do think the Jags have a good defense. There's no JS. If Puka's not there, the guy that tore him up against Seattle was JSN. The Rams don't have that. So I think the Jags can get home against Stafford and make some plays. The only thing I sit back and really question is I just don't know if Trevor Lawrence is going to be able to make the plays against that Rams defense. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. Like just going back to common opponents. Like the Jags lost to the Bengals. Yes, it was the game that Joey B got hurt. We could argue that defensive defensive player rolled up his foot and twisted it. Which I thought was pretty dirty, but that's neither here nor there. So they lost to them. They barely beat the Houston Texans, in which we've had a lot of question marks surrounding the Texans this whole entire season of what team's going to get we're going to see. And when it came down to a big game, you already called it out with the Chiefs, and to be handedly beat by the Seahawks, just getting torched by JSN. Dude, I don't. I think the Jags are going to start to see the decline. Like it is cool to see Liam Cohen come in and like, oh, I've changed this culture and whatnot. But I think he's about to get a reality shock of what they're really going to be facing moving forward, because they got a decent schedule coming up after the Rams. We can talk about the Raiders being 2-4. They're still putting up 20+ points a game, and they're not a team to be messing with, especially at home in Las Vegas. Then they play the Texans at home, and then they got to play the Chargers. So I think there's going to be a little bit of a tough stretch for the Jaguars coming up. And again, it comes back to Trevor Lawrence. I mean, let's talk about if Chris Jones would have rushed, on that Monday night game, he probably wouldn't have scored that touchdown and the Chiefs still win the game. Like at the end of the day, I'm not saying that Chris Jones could have made the play, but had he rushed, we might have seen something different out of that for that outcome. Huge win for them, without a doubt. but then they go into, or Seattle visits them and they still lose. So I too will take the Rams just because, dude, that defensive line getting home to Trevor, he's going to be rattled.
Yeah, and going back to the Trevor thing of it's all in his hands. We made this comparison a few years ago, and I feel like every time it gets going back to this of Derek Carr, that there were these times that you're like, oh, finally, this is the guy
We've
that
been waiting for.
we've been waiting for. And he'll have these games, and you're like, dude, the Jags are going to take off, the Raiders are going to take off. Like, we've been waiting for this. And then they'll just go through these like slumps that you're just like, well, what happened? And it's like more times than not, it was just a flash in the pan rather than the actual truth data that you see. And that's, for me, that's why it's so difficult to take the Jags seriously, because until I see consistency on a continual week in, week out basis of Trevor Lawrence, I can't trust him.
Yep.
All right, you got to hear our prediction, and then you did maul just dirty in text with the Bears. Me and him thought the Bears were going to come out and beat the Commanders, and your only request to Maul was just please don't bet on the Bears to win the game. And I don't need you to curse us. Just did my man dirty. Getting at home against the Saints, my question is this a trap game for y'all after a big win over Washington?
No, in my opinion, I think it's the game to finally solidify everything that they've been doing on offense. You know, the defense of the Saints has obviously been struggling. Also, you know, there's a lot of question marks surrounding the offensive side for the Saints. I I look at this game with a lot of optimism, just because if we went back to last night, watching that game, I was texting you guys. Obviously, you weren't responding because you were at the game, but there were so many points left on the board for the Bears that they didn't capitalize on last night, even to the point. And again, the Bears won. You know, so I get to say it because it wasn't the reason why we lost the game, but there was a touchdown called back on a Dunze, and even Aikman in the booth was like, his head is aligned with the center, like from our angle. I don't know what the line judge was seeing, but I just don't see this penalty. And it was a Dunze touchdown called back, perfectly placed ball by Caleb. The first drive we only put up 3. I think we missed some opportunities there, so there were points left on the board. We also had a missed field goal late in the game that the Commanders were able to block. It was, as a Bears fan, when I saw the Commanders coming back, I was just like, all right, here we go again. You know, like, buckle up. You know, this game's not over till the clock says 0. But I don't like what I see. But what I did see was, you know, finally a little bit of composure out of Caleb, you know, late in the game. Because in these pressure situations, going back to last year, under pressure, man, like, that's what they drafted him for, and he just was not living up to it. Last night, he was dialed in. He was home field, you know, coming from DC, and he was able to call it up. And like I said, man, the fact that it came down to the field goal, the Bears left points on the board that I think going to play the Saints, it'll be good for Ben Johnson to get a little bit of confidence for Caleb, because, dude, Caleb was throwing some dimes last night. He also missed, but that's going to happen. And if we can keep that run game going with Swift, I mean, my man had 170 some odd yards from scrimmage between rushing and receiving. If we can continue that, especially against a lopsided defense, old defense of the Saints, dude, I like what I see this weekend.
Yeah, I didn't get to see the game, so I can't talk too much on it. The only thing I will sit back and I think there's hope for Bears fans is the emergence of Rome. I think that him coming into the second year has really provided some balance to the offense outside of just having to force the ball to DJ Moore the entire time. And I like Luther, Cole Kmet, Loveland caught a ball last night for the first time that I feel like I've heard his name even be called during a game. So if the offense can keep clicking, yeah, the Bears are a dangerous team. And I know that I felt like we were living through you the last podcast episode of, because I could hear you saying as Maul was talking that game last year against the Commanders really set them down the wrong path.
Oh, 100%.
Of just, and it did. They lost 10 straight, including that game. And this year, being able to get that win, you just look at building, taking taking it one game after another, they have a chance. They have a chance to, because especially after how bad the Packers have looked here lately, I sit back and go, you got to give the Bears a fighting chance, not just in the division, but for especially at a wild card. They're there. They're there if they can find the way. So I agree with you. I'll take the Bears against the Saints.
And that's the thing too. You brought up Burden. You know, he had the big game against the Cowboys, kind of did nothing. Last night he had a huge catch, you know, and then even juked out some defenders. Like, I hope they can find a way to get him more involved with the offense. Just because, I mean, that man's special. I know it's tough because you're like, we've got Rome, we've got DJ, but it's like, man, if we get Luther out there as well in a spread set, good luck.
Yeah. Dolphins Browns. Apparently, Dolphins players don't show up to meetings, and that's also including the ex Dolphin players Tua himself. So Cleveland right now -2.5, which surprisingly enough, I don't hate the line. Like, I think the Dolphins are a better team from a lot of standpoints, mainly on the Dolphins offense, but the Browns defense is really good. Gabriel is just the Browns are doing the exact same thing that we sort of all thought they would going into this year. That eventually Gabriel was going to see the field. I think that you're going to see another 2 losses maybe out of Gabriel, and especially if he loses against the Dolphins, we're just a countdown from Shador Sanders getting in and getting a start. It's what's going to happen because the Browns are on a highway to having the first overall selection, and when they do, they'll be more than happy to take Carson back, who will inevitably lead them to 1-15 again. So, being honest, do you think Cleveland comes out and maybe gets Mike McDaniels fired?
I think the only way that we see that is if the defense is able to get Tua to turn the ball over. And I don't think that is crazy to say. Like, between Myles Garrett, you know, getting home, and then Tua just making bad decisions, because we already know Tua is kind of a first read type guy. You know, he hasn't demonstrated that he's gone beyond that, and CTE's only making my man worse day in and day out. But you've got guys missing meetings and stuff like that. There's a substantial amount of turmoil that the writing's on the wall that Mike McDaniel is going to be out, whether it's going to be in the middle of the season or somehow they just wait until the end of the season. Like, I don't necessarily like that the Browns are the favorite to win. I mean, last week the most exciting thing that happened for the Browns was Shiloh Sander impersonating his brother walking around the stadium. I don't know if you caught that or
I did
not, but go
not.
look it up.
I will.
Shiloh was wearing a Shador jersey, walking around, taking pictures, signing autographs, and everybody thought it was Shador. You know, so because he was even doing the impression of talking like how his brother talks. I thought it was hilarious. But anyways, all that being said, man, it would be, if the Browns win this game, it is purely based on their defense. Just because if you watched any of the throws that Dylan Gabriel was making, my man was nervous. You know, and it's just a matter of, obviously the Dolphins D line is not as good as the Steelers, but this is a toss up in my opinion. If I had to just outright based on talent, I would give it to the Dolphins.
Yeah, if you made me I always like to say, if you made me bet the mortgage on it, I'm putting the mortgage on the Dolphins to win 100%. The game. Patriots Titans. Titans first team to get rid of that head coach, so Brian Callahan's done. I feel awful for Cam Ward because it's not his fault. Yes. It's just the fact that the Titans are a terrible organization. And they played I thought that maybe, hey, Titans just have Cam Ward playing against a bad Raiders team, and the Raiders just lit them up bad. I think the Patriots are going to do the same. Patriots are -7.5, and I can see this being far uglier than 7.5.
Yeah, and that's the thing too. I mean, it's a Vrabel revenge game.
I was waiting to see if you'd say it.
Yeah, dude. Like, this is, if I'm Vrabel, we're putting up 50. You know, and I'm not going to let off the gas just on a pure standpoint of they're already down, and as a coach, I'm going to continue to kick them where down just so they know that it hurts for them firing me. Dude, if all day. And I get it, Cam's a good passer, but he's unable to stay in the pocket just because that offensive line's not giving him any help. dude, all day. I'm telling my DBs, you guys are going to be tired. I'm going cover 0 all day, and I'm just sending 8 every down. It doesn't matter. Like until we don't get to Cam Ward, like that would be my game plan as Vrabel, just so that I could stick that knife a little bit further. Uh, and again, just like you said, man, like this is the problem with the NFL with these struggling teams that get the quarterback fresh out the gates. You don't get them in a system long enough before they turn it over the keys to somebody else who brings in a brand new system. And it's just like, we're ruining these guys. Thankfully, Baker was able to escape it. And, we see what he's doing in Tampa Bay. But it's like, man, we could even talk about Mac Jones and, the way that he's been playing in San Francisco. Like, I know he's the backup, but it's just like you see these guys that get put into these systems and then, they're just shopped around. We could talk a little Danny Dimes, like going to New York. They tried to ruin them because they had Saquon. Even though they paid Dimes, Dayball was tired of them, new coach. And dude, this is all that we're going to see. And I just feel bad for Cam Ward, just like you said, having to learn a new playbook. Probably going to be a lot of the same schemes, with McCoy, Mike McCoy coming in as an interim, but next season, brand new coach, brand new scheme, so we're just seeing the vicious cycle take place again.
So it's funny that you say that. The last 4 number 1 overall quarterback picks have seen a different offensive coordinator or head coach after their first year. So Cam Ward loses Callahan. Caleb Williams had Eberflus. Bryce Young had Frank Wright. And Trevor Lawrence, believe it or not, had worse than even Eberflus.
Urban
Meyer out there kicking kickers. So I feel bad for guy. I think Bryce has shown that, hey, man, if you just get some pieces around him, dude's out there beating the Cowboys. Like, they have shown a big improvement, and it's just from a standpoint of, like, get the guys some continuity. Like, I feel awful for some of these young quarterbacks because they get put into really a sort of a no-win situation. You look at Cam Ward and you're like, what was he supposed to do, man? Like, you can tell the kid's talented. You can tell he cares. Like, he's not out there like Ryan Leaf, not studying or not preparing. Like, you can tell the game means something to him, but it's like you put him against, that old Star Trek, that Kobayashi Maru. It's just an unwinnable test for him. That's plain simple what it is. So, yeah, give me Vrabel to just humiliate the Titans on Sunday. Raiders going to the Chiefs. Chiefs minus 12.5. I want to go ahead and lock it in for me. Chiefs are going to the Super Bowl from the AFC. The only team outside of the Steelers, and I don't think that I say the Steelers like I did at the beginning of the episode just because it's right now. I still don't see the Steelers winning. The only team that I think that can beat them,
Colts.
I'd love to say the Colts. I just think
but last weekend left me with a lot of
questions. Dude, against the Cardinals, this team has shown that they can. They just got to get healthy, and I don't know if they're going to be able to on the offensive line. It's the Chargers. I think the Chargers can. It's just about health, and if the Chargers can't get healthy, they're not going to do it. We'll get to the Chargers here in a minute with Ladidi in that catch that he made. I will not refer to Ladd McConkey by any name on this program after hearing Ladidi McConkey. Tremendous by them, but I sit back and I look at the Chiefs. The Chiefs are going to throttle the Raiders. They should. Now, the Raiders have shown in years past that they play the Chiefs extraordinarily well.
Yep.
I think the Chiefs should own the game. I think their defense is good enough to put Geno Smith behind. But last year, O'Donnell and them beat them. So this one's like everything in me says the Chiefs should win this game pretty handily, but it makes you nervous to pick.
Yeah, and that's where I sit. I go for years prior. Like the Chiefs get on a roll, and then they play the Raiders, and you're like, what are they doing? Like what is Max Crosby saying to Mahomes pre-snap? I mean, I guarantee it's close to a death threat. Like every single snap. So like lining up against that psycho, like for whatever reason, we see it year in and year out that the Chiefs truly struggle. The good news is that they're not playing in Vegas, right out the gates for the first game. So I think that's going to be the saving grace in the matter, is that they are playing at home. To say 12 and a half, I don't like it, just because of years prior. Now Gino, he's a transition. Like that's all that I can think of. Pete Carroll's like, hey, I don't like O'Connell. Like, who is out there right now that I have continuity with, that I can try to build with, and who's cheap? And I think that's all that Gino is, unfortunately. But Gino's past the years of, the comeback player of the year that he was with the Seahawks.
Yeah. The other thing that will save the Chiefs is the refs. If I learned anything after last week.
Gosh, dude, I was so mad. I like there was blatant calls where you're just like, are you kidding me? Like, no other team in the NFL would have gotten that call, depending on what it was. And like, even me, I was stumped because I was texting you guys. I was like, why'd they call back that bubble screen to Goff for a touchdown? Like, I didn't see. And it's just like, well, he has to reset before he goes into motion. And it was just like, gosh, that is the creepiest rule. Like, some refs like, oh yeah, we just got him.
Well, I get that one. Like, that one's a rule that, yes, Campbell and them should have had him set. I get that. The Kelsey catch, that clearly the ball is like in between his hand and the ground, that I think that 99% of the time across the NFL, they at least review.
Yeah.
And most of the time they overturn. They didn't even review. Chiefs get up on the ball and they just snap it and catch the Lions with 12. And you're just sort of like, guys, like, the Bills got one reviewed last night that I thought was even more questionable because it looked like the ball never touched the ground. I get it was moving, but it didn't appear that the ball ever hit the ground. It was close. And when I say close, I mean, you probably fit a blade of grass in there. But there were times in that game that you just sort of set back, and then there's other calls like Scadaboo like runs, gets hit out going out of bounds, comes back and just sort of like turns and says something to a dude, gets 15 yards, but then Mahomes scores and just like rubs it in the dude's face, but they don't throw the flag on him. And then Juju, like, I get Brian Branch shouldn't have punched him, but my man, he blocked him in the back, like, and then stepped over the top of him. There was no flag for the block in the back. You know what? The punch was deserved, and I'm glad he did it. You won't hear me sit back and not condone that. It was well credited for him. So that stuff's got to stop. It takes away from the integrity of the game. The fact that they went through the whole game and had 0 penalties, dude, that doesn't happen. I'm sorry. Someone's always holding. Someone's offside. Like, there's always something. And the fact that they were not called for a single penalty, kick rocks. Kick rocks. Yep. Next game up, Eagles Vikings. Philly -1.5. The only thing that I sit back and go, the Vikings have chances, because that offense for Philly is lost.
In shambles.
Dude. Yeah. It's like, I would equate it to filling the entire state of Texas with pennies and painting one of them black and telling a blind guy to find it on his first try. That's what I feel like the Eagles are on offense. They have no idea what they're doing. What's the problem that you're seeing for the Eagles?
They're not giving the ball to Saquon. Like, why are we trying to reinvent something new? Like, yes, I get it. AJ Brown's unhappy. Jalen can't get him the ball. Like, they're not able to establish the run game, which is taken away from the pass game. And that as a whole is just screwing them on offense. And dude, I understand that they brought in a new coordinator because Kellen Moore got the job down at the Saints. Like, but at the end of the day, Nick Sirianni's got to look at it as like, Saquon should be running the ball 65% of the time, at least, and if he's not, how are we getting him involved? Because he can decently catch the ball out of the backfield as well, and it's just like, you leave that guy in open space, one-on-one, him alone could win games. Like, if they didn't have Devontae Smith and AJ Brown out there, or Goddard for that matter, like, Saquon would still find a way to get open, in my personal opinion. And because he's just that high of a caliber player, he deserves every bit that he got last season with the Super Bowl MVP and all that kind of jazz. But it's just like, why can't you just draw that back up on a board on your offense? And I think that's what it all boils down to. Now, on the defensive side, having Jalen Carter being out, that definitely was a hindrance to him. I think they bounce back, in my opinion. Like, watching that Eagles game, I was kicking myself because I left Scattaboo on my fantasy bench, and my man went off. Like, dude, put him up against a brick wall. He's going through it eventually. Like, uh, I I don't like what I see out of the Eagles. The good news is, the Vikings don't know who's going to start at quarterback. Both McCarthy and Wentz have been practicing, so we'll see who they decide to play. But both of them are, coming off of injuries, and so it'll be interesting to see who gets the call on Sunday.
I think it's going to be JJ, just because I've seen enough of Carson Wentz to realize why he's been a backup for so long now. Panthers Jets. Carolina minus 1.5 point favorite. Do the Jets win a game this season? I mean, I know Maul was texting, and I was watching the game here. Fields had at one point less passing yards than he had taken sacks in the game. He got sacked, I think, 9 times or something. I mean, it was, dude, the Jets offense is in shambles, and Garrett Wilson's now hurt. I don't know, dude. I don't know if they win a game. What do you think?
I mean, I just go back and I look. They put up 32 against the Steelers, 27 against the Jets, 21 against the Dolphins, 22 against the Cowboys. Like, the production's there. I definitely don't think. Obviously, Garrett Wilson being out, we see that. He's been hollering for the ball early, anyways. That he wasn't getting enough touches. Even screaming. I think he screamed at Aaron Glenn a couple weeks ago of give me the ball. Brees Hall started out the season looking really good. I don't know how long the Aaron Glenn experiment's going to work. Robert Saleh got canned pretty quickly. So it'll be interesting to see. As far as statistically speaking of them not winning the game, I think that's pretty tough. I don't know necessarily this week. I think it'll be a matter of which Panthers team we see. Because the Jets have shown if Fields plays decent, they're able. I'm not going to say explosive, but they're dynamic enough on offense to give you problems. Just because Fields can run the ball, they've got a decent back in Hall. But I would say this weekend, man, I'll take the Panthers. I like what they're doing and how they're rolling. Granted, they did play a terrible defense in Dallas this past weekend and still barely won the game. But give me the Panthers.
The Jets, the Broncos, that game, the Broncos did everything they could to give the Jets the game, and then it was like the Jets doing everything to be like, no, we don't want the game. It was hard to watch. The thing about the Jets that really concerns me could be summed up in the pre-halftime. Jets get the ball. They end up faking a punt to pick up the first down. And you're like, okay, finally, let's go. Then they run it on first down. And then they have 2 more plays. Yes. And then they get the 4th down, clock's running down, they're standing there, and you're like, okay, well, at least they'll take a shot downfield. And if not, Fields will just take off running or slide down. And they just let the clock expire. It was like you did all that work to try to get something, and then at the end it was almost like you were so nervous you didn't. Clearly Aaron Glenn trusts no one on his offense, that he was just like, no, we're just not going to do anything. And that, to me, I'm with you. I think Aaron Glenn, it's just a matter of just a few more games. Like, they get to the 0-8, 0-9 record, he's probably going to get canned, which I hate it for him. But at the same time, we said this going into the season. Like, I don't understand why Aaron Glenn took the job. It's such a difficult job. Their roster's terrible. They are always willing to fire the head coach and blame him. And you never leave there with a good reputation. Like no one ever comes out of the Jets and they're like, I really think that guy can coach. That doesn't happen. Like Robert Saleh had to prove himself here. Was an analyst with Green Bay, and then now he got the DC gig again back with the Niners because that was the job he already had with Kyle Shanahan, and he's doing well. But you just sort of sit back and you go, dude, it trashes your coaching resume for years after the Jets job.
When I think even going even further than that, the last person to take him to the AFC Championship game, Rex Ryan, nobody even dares to give him a call anymore.
Yeah.
Like, and I get it. He's got other things going on. Probably why they don't bring him in, but he's not even a name announced anymore.
Yeah. Your fantasy roster, we'll see how you like it with Cam Scatterboo going against Denver. Denver's right now 6.5-point favorites. I tell you, if Denver plays like they did against the Jets, Giants are going to win. You going to be starting Cam?
Dude, yes, because Bucky Irvin's still out. So yeah, I'm gonna lean on Cam to do it this week. But again, you look at the Jets. I would lean to them being a rushing attack more, just based on Brees Hall with Fields as well. And so it's kind of the same thing with Jackson Dart and Scatterboo doing those read options. I like the Broncos defense, and I think that's the one thing that saves them in these games. When Bo Nix is struggling, they still have that defense to fall back on. But I mean, playing at Mile High, I'd give it to the Broncos.
Yeah, it's hard. I like the Giants in the game from their defensive line because of anything that I've been shown so far, it's that Bo Nix is definitely having a sophomore slump. They're not He's not finding the ways to win, especially with his legs that he did last year. And I would argue Jaden Daniels is sort of in the same boat. Like Jaden made some really good runs last year that you just didn't. I didn't get to see the game, so I may be speaking, out of my own, you know, rear end here. But I know for Bo, I just didn't see that. The Giants have a good defensive line. Like they know how to create pressure that really helps him. I love the way that Cam runs the football. Like they do take deep shots with Jackson Dart, whether it's like stupidity or just like ignorance, being a young rookie, and it's just like I'll just yeet one up and see if my guy will make it play, and they do. I think it helps the Giants. I like the Giants in the game. I think that the Giants are going to win some other games just because they are competitive, and I think that the whole team feeds off of Dart and Cam Scatterboo's injury.
Scatterboo,
Dude,
yeah,
my man's an animal. Like I don't know what he's sniffing, but it ain't the Salt Rock. I can tell you that. Like my man's fired up. All right, next game. This is funny enough, the two leaders of the AFC right now, Colts at the Chargers. Right now, the Chargers minus 1.5. Last week, I would have told you, looking at this game, not seeing last week's games, I would have told you the Colts. But dude, the Colts come out and it's like they don't have the Cardinals with Jacoby Brissett without a starting running back. Marvin Harrison Jr. goes out of the game, and it took everything in the world to beat the Cardinals. Like tough game. Chargers found a way too. Chargers were down. Really didn't have any reason to beat Miami, and then Ladidi caught that pass and took it all the way down to put them in field goal range. Were your vibes on the game?
this is where Herbert's my fantasy quarterback, and I'm just like 2 weeks in a row, my man has barely put up any points, and it's just like it goes to show when he's without Joe Alt protecting him. Like that's what it comes down to. He's got two hurt starting offensive linemen, so the passing game's not as readily available as it is if you're able to get home to Herbert, and that's where I think the Chargers struggle is. They don't have a prominent run game because they rely so much on Herbert. And I think that's where, yes, they had, they made the playoffs last year under Harbaugh, but it's like Harbaugh brings a little bit of that Michigan attitude of I'm going to run the ball first and then we're going to pass. And the problem is when you're not moving the sticks through the run game, that doesn't open up the pass when you got a third and distance to go. And you need more than just a chip underneath or something like that. And I mean, Lad McConkey is pretty much that whole entire offense right now. Keenan has had um, a little bit of help, with clutch touchdowns and stuff like that earlier on this season, but I haven't been hearing my man's name here as of lately, and he was a dependable guy earlier in the season, and they're not connecting. So Herbert's missing a little bit. I don't know if the dating of celebrities finally getting to him, but with it being at home and what I saw out of the Colts last week, uh, I'm going to take the Chargers in this game.
They're saying there's a possibility of Mac and Joe Alt coming back this game, which if that's the case, I'll take the Chargers. If it's not the case and both of those guys are out, I'll take the Colts. Not have your summation of not having, if they had Slater and Alt both healthy, the Chargers are probably undefeated right now.
Yeah.
Very, very good football team, but they've got to get healthy in order to be able to compete. And if it's not that this week, I do think the Colts had a good scare, but that should bounce them back against the Chargers. Commanders, Cowboys. Commanders minus 1.5. As said, I didn't get to see the game, so you'll have to tell me what you think of the Commanders and sort of going up against Dallas, who has one of the best offenses, but also one of the worst defenses, of how you think they're going to fare.
Yeah, I mean, based on last night, I would take the Commanders to win this game. What happened last night? There were 3 turnovers. Obviously the most crucial one was the one that gave the Bears back the ball to go score late in the game. But that's where it came down to was, Commanders were still able to put up 24 last night against the Bears, and they had 3 turnovers. Jaden was making the plays that he needed to make. You talked about it, not seeing him rushing like he did last year. There were plays last night where I was like, sweet, we're going to hit him. And like I want to say the Bears only got 1 sack last night. And it was because Jaden was able to escape the pressure. Bears would get a hand on him. He was able to slip away, just kind of like how Caleb does as well. Feels that pocket collapse, and then he gets out of town. And there was one specifically that happened right before that fumble. Jaden was reading the running back, I think, or maybe it was tight end. Regardless, Sweat had him one-on-one. All Sweat had to do was just break down, hit the tackle. Instead, Jaden plants his foot, goes the opposite direction, cuts right in between the line and Sweat, and picks up a first down because nobody else was covering the middle of the field. And so I personally think that the Commanders are going to win this game just because Matt Eberflus's defense is garbage. Like Panthers put up 27, and we've been talking about, yes, they are a bounce back team. McMillan is crushing it this year. Dowdle had a huge game against the Cowboys, and I like what they've been able to do. And it just showed the holes that the Cowboys have on defense. And with an explosive offense like Washington's, I see them winning the game.
Yeah, I like Washington. The only thing that gives me like pause is every year the NFC East crown goes to someone different, and with the Eagles struggling, it's someone's division to win. I just don't know who yet, and it's probably between these two. I say I like the Giants. I just don't think that they've shown enough, especially with a rookie quarterback, that they're going to be able to compete against the Cowboys and Commanders, especially after they dropped one to the Cowboys. So I'll take the Commanders just because you're never going to hear me pull for Dallas. So Commanders it is.
And that's the thing. You kind of alluded to it with Dak. Like normal season Dak, MVP level. Like you can't ever count that offense out. And the way that Pickens is playing right now, like I forgot what he did the other day. And Allie, she made a comment. She's like, that was unnecessary. I was like, you don't know George Pickens. Like he pushed some dude out of bounds.
No, it was when he caught the ball, changed the hands of ball to punch that dude in the face going out of bounds. It was the most George Pickens catch I've ever seen. And it was hilarious. I was dying.
And I told her, I was like, you don't know George Pickens. He looks for that.
Yeah. Oh, it was nothing but hate. I loved it. It's just, I'm glad he's playing. I mean, George is a dog. And especially with his emergence, I really think that if they can get CD back and healthy, the offense is dangerous in Dallas. But like you said, until Eberflus can figure out a defense, they're going to struggle. It feels very much like Burrow having to throw 500 yards and 5 touchdowns just to keep him even. with
For
teams.
sure.
Packers Cardinals. Green Bay's -6.5. Don't like that line. Since the first few weeks of the season, dog, I know this brings joy to your heart. The Packers have looked sloppy at best. At best, they've looked sloppy. No, I mean, after the first few weeks, we were sort of penciling them in like Green Bay's going to the Super Bowl. You cannot say that anymore about
Yep.
Green Bay. And Maul said it in the text. I think the root cause is Jordan Love's just playing terrible right now at the position of quarterback. I know you're a Bears fan, but break it down on the Packers for me.
Yeah, man. Like, I mean, I'm looking at it right now. Uh, obviously, he did throw an interception. That was their only turnover of the game, but they put up 400 yards of offense, and it's just like you would think in the league that they play in, when you put up 400 on anybody, obviously the Bengals are hurting. You think that there would definitely be more points on the board than just field goals and a couple of touchdowns. And man, I don't know. I think we've said this time and time again. Is these franchises are paying the wrong person? They're like, we got our guy, we've got our Danny Dimes in New York. Like they just feel like they have to commit to this guy because they've reached a certain level of success. And let's be honest, the success of that offense is Josh Jacobs. Like Josh Jacobs covers up a lot of Jordan Love's problems. And I think when they start playing the heavier competition, that's when it's really going to show through, in my opinion. And correct me if I'm wrong, because I truly just my disdain for the Packers. I want to say Micah's not having the year that they were expecting him to have.
So here's the thing with Micah. Micah's averaged about 12 sacks a game, or excuse me, 12 sacks a season. Even with Dallas, he had an amazing first year. I think the thing about Micah is, and this is where it gets lost, is is he going to be your Lawrence Taylor, Reggie White type of player? In my
No.
opinion, no. He's not this like he is not in the last few seasons been this just game wrecker MVP level player. Like even if you want to go back a few years to like when JJ Watt had his year with Houston, he's not playing at that level. What he does though is he really demands that guys pay him attention. And I think he gets doubled and chipped a ton. Like he's got a motor, he is getting there. The problem with the Packers is that the other guys are not rising to the occasion and beating the one-on-ones. Like that's where my issue is with the Packers is like Micah's doing everything he can. He can't win every game. You've got to have other guys contribute. Like where is Rashawn Gary? Like where are
I mean,
the
so I did just look that up. Rashawn Gary, Micah's got 11 tackles. Rashawn's got 18. Micah's got 2.5 sacks. Rashawn's got 4.5. So,
and the Van Ness guy that they took in the first round? I know he got a sack on Flacco this past week. I saw it. Those are the guys that you got to see come alive for the Packers. But even more so on the offensive side, 100%. Like Jacobs is your Saquon for the Packers. Like feed him the ball. Like my man's running hard. He's a great back out of the backfield. He's completely versatile. It's why the Raiders won so many games with him when he led the league in rushing that season. The Packers on offense, the wide receivers, I think that they have the talent there. They're not the Bears level of talent, and I mean that like in a good way for the Bears. Like they're not the Roma Odunze. They're not the first round flashy pick DJ Moore, Luther Burden. They have guys that play very well within the Packers system, but at no point do I sit back and be like, dude, that's the number one receiver if he goes to a different team. Like
yeah.
that's not what the Packers have. So with that, Jordan Love has to elevate those guys. And that's where it falls for me. Is until Jordan Love elevates the play, the Packers are going to continue to struggle against teams that they really shouldn't struggle against. Simple. Sunday night game. Falcons, who coming off the big win against the Bills, go to San Francisco playing the 49ers. I feel like the 49ers, at least the last few years, are probably the most injury pro team I've seen. They're down Ayuk going into the season. They lose Purdy, they lose Kittle, they lose Boza, then they lose, really, I sort of think, the heart and soul of that defense of Fred Warner last week. This is, to me, San Francisco's favorite in the game, -2.5. I'm just going to be honest with you, man. I sort of feel like this is the Falcons to lose. I think more people are giving the Falcons a lot of credit for beating the Bills, and the Bills aren't a great team based upon what I saw last night. But from a standpoint of, I look at the game, I just don't know if San Francisco can overcome all the injuries that they have, especially on the defensive side of the ball. To slow, it will really take Penix not being able to throw the ball well for San Francisco to have a chance. Uh, that's just my gut. My gut says the Falcons are going to win the game. What about you?
Yeah, I'm looking back at last week just to see, what McCaffrey did because, again, uh, it looked a lot closer than what the final score says with the Buccaneers 49ers game, and we'll get to Baker in a second. My man is playing out of his
MVP.
mind right now. Yeah, out of his mind right now for where they're sitting with all the injuries at wide receiver and now with Bucky Irvin being out. But to get back to the 49ers, them losing Fred Warner is crucial. Like he's been the leader of the defense. Obviously we could talk about Nick Bosa tearing his ACL, but we've talked about it before. Bosa's always just been a name, just like his brother, just because they've been hyped out of Ohio State, just like Chase Young when he came to 49ers. Like, it's just the Ohio State product that hasn't lived up to the hype, but he does enough to get the money, and so it's one of those things like they're overcoming all the injuries with Purdy being hurt and stuff like that. Mac Jones, just like Dano said, like put Mac Jones into the Shanahan system and we're going to see something different, and that's what we've seen so far. Like Mac Jones is playing pretty decent football. Uh, but to your point, I think it's Michael Penix's game to lose. Just a little bit. I mean, he didn't play that much last season, but also going into the sophomore slump, like will Salah's defense be able to give him the fits and make mistakes in this game? Because we've already got this is if this was, I don't know, call it 3 years ago or even McCaffrey's first season and Bijan playing the way that he is right now, this would be an electric matchup of which running back is going to outrun the defense on the other side. And, Mac threw 347 last week. Only problem was he threw 2 interceptions, versus any touchdowns. And that, again, boils back to, well, what are the quarterbacks going to do in this game? Like you said, I would take the Falcons as well in this game, coming off of a big win. Find ways to get Bijan the ball, Drake London the ball. Like Penix just got to play a good game.
Yeah. Then going into Monday night, starting off, as you talked about, I think the MVP right now playing in the league, there's no one funner to watch right now than Baker Mayfield. Going to Detroit, -5.5. If I've seen anything out of Detroit's defense, is that Detroit has to go get somebody. It's sort of like the Bills. Like, it's clear Aiden Hutchinson's a dog.
Out of his mind.
Out of his mind. Like, that to me, and see, this is to go back to your Micah Parsons questions. Like, Aiden is that guy. Aiden's the guy that they literally are like, we can't double chip him. Like, the Chiefs just ran the play completely away from him. They were like, you're not taking the game over. If I see that, the Lions, I literally looked when I just wanted to look. They're in the number 3 highest in terms of the cap. They have the third most money to spend. This is the Lions window. This is it. It's closing quickly. They got to go get somebody. I would sell my next 2 number 1 overall picks for Myles Garrett in a heartbeat if I was the Lions. Go get him. If you win the Super Bowl, who cares? I don't care if I trash this team for the next 5 years. I don't care if I trash it for the next 50 decades. If I can get 1 Super Bowl for Detroit, I'll sell it all. Like, I will sell my soul to get a Super Bowl if I'm the Lions. They got to go get somebody. And I think it's going to show up this game because Detroit's favored. Buccaneers are winning this game. Go ahead and tell you that right now. Baker Mayfield is going to be slinging it. against a line secondary that can't stop anybody.
Well, and that's the thing. It's going to be a matter of the the backup wide receivers that are going to be doing anything. Have you seen an update on Egbuka?
I
Is he
haven't
going to be
seen
all
an
right?
update on him, but I know Tez Johnson played pretty well.
Yeah, dude. Tez Johnson. Yeah,
He
and
was a
that was the
dog at
thing. Like,
Oregon.
yeah, and I texted you guys. I was like, did you guys just see that play that Baker made? Like third and 14. Dude should have been sacked by two dudes. Gets out of the pocket. Could have been tackled for a short gain. Instead, shakes that tackle and then extends for the first down. 14-yard rush. 20 plus yards running in total. Running for his life. And he's like, I'm getting this first down. 2 plays later, touchdown to Tez. Like Baker. And Baker said in the post game interview, they're like, hey, what do you think about this? He's like, I trust the guys that are going to come into this game. I'm going to get them the ball regardless. And that's what you need out of the leader. And Baker's just showing complete composure. And they had Rachaad White running the ball. Obviously, you want Bucky Irvin to come back. I don't like them going into the Detroit environment, though. Detroit's going to have a chip on their shoulder. I believe I haven't watched any of their, Dan Campbell or anybody saying anything, but knowing the grit that they have playing, I'm going to go opposite of you. I do think Detroit's going to win this game. And I think it's going to come down to just, that MCDC mindset. I don't think the Buccaneers defense will be able to stop the Lions offense in this game because the refs had to do it for the Chiefs, if I'm just being honest.
I get it. I totally get it. I just, right now, I can't bet against Baker.
For sure.
That's the hard part for me. Everything that I've seen so far, it's like he's down. They put on good music and watch this drive because my man's gonna sling it. That's why
he's
I'm
playing that Gus Swayze mentality, dude.
Yeah, I'm telling Holly, give me that creamsicle jersey. I just want one. Just want
Buy
one.
me one too.
Dude, for real, the jersey, awesome. I love the creamsicle. All right, final Monday night game. Thank God it's like a thank God, and I would have rather like this past Monday 7:15, 8:15 kickoff, which you're like, well, it makes it that unless I'm home, I can't watch both, and then when I do, I got it on YouTube with a split screen, and I can only hear the volume of one. It makes it difficult. This one at least 3 hours difference, but the negative is it's 10 p.m. Eastern time, so your boy's going to have his eyeballs taped up to the front of his skull to be able to watch the Texans Seahawks. Seahawks minus 3.5. I feel like this line is generous because the Texans routing the Ravens and everyone's sort of being high on the Texans, but everyone also forgetting that before that the Texans were 1-3 and not looking very good.
And playing Cooper Rush.
Yeah. JSN's leading the NFL in receiving yards right now and looks like an absolute dog doing it. So I like Seattle, and I like them by a lot more than 3.5 in the game. I don't know where the line is coming from the Texans keeping this close. Maybe they'll happily surprise me. I just like Seattle big time in this game. What are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I think, obviously the getting the big win last week, and they beat the Titans as well. We still have yet to see CJ show up for the big game. They've already lost to the Jags. They lost to the Bucks as well. Until I see CJ put on a complete game to where I'm like, all right, he's back. He's bounced back from whatever he's been dealing with to make sound decisions and just execute the offense the way that he's supposed to as an NFL quarterback. Yeah, the Seahawks are playing ridiculous football right now. I know we kind of counted them out, but Seahawks right now are probably the front runner for the NFC West, if I had to guess, just based on the way they're playing. I know which opponent did they lose to the 49ers or was it the Rams?
Seahawks lost to the 49ers in week 1.
Yeah.
Was their very first loss, and their other loss, as I'm pulling up the schedule real quick, was against the Bucks, 38-35.
Yeah.
In the
and so
Creamsicles.
Yeah, dude. That's just one of these things. Like the way that Mike McDonald has them playing right now, I'm not taking anybody against the Seahawks at home.
Same.
Give him that 12th man.
So I sort of called it. That wraps up week 7. Unless you got other thoughts. My question for you is so based upon we're getting close, We're getting close to halfway through. If you had to go AFC, NFC, who you think is going to represent, who you got?
Just coming off of the Seahawks game, I would want to say Seahawks, but just look at Sam Darnold in the playoffs last year. Like I just cannot say that with full confidence that I would like that. Uh, man, as far as an AFC game, I mean, you kind of called it. The referees are calling it for us. I would give it to the Chiefs. Honestly, if I had to put a mortgage on it, dude, I would take the Buccaneers. Like give them time to get healthy. Like all their players are out and they're still winning games with the backups to the backups. And, like we said, Baker's just playing incredible football right now. Like give me the Bucks versus the Chiefs.
God, that would be magic. Ugh. Please, NFL, if that happens, let them wear the creamsicles in the Super Bowl. The thing about the Chiefs the other reason I just say pencil them in, they haven't got.
Well, they're also getting Rashee Rice.
Yes.
Back. Yeah.
In the only thing that's going to take the Chiefs down is an injury to Mahomes. It ain't possibly John Harbaugh out of the AFC. But you sit back and you think AFC South, like, would I love to sit back and tell you the Colts? Yes. I just don't know. It's one of those ones I do not know what I'm going to see.
Up until this last weekend.
Yeah.
I would have probably said the Colts, but, they almost lost to Jacoby Brissett.
Yeah. The AFC North, the Ravens are done. I don't see that. They may not even make the playoffs. Aaron Rodgers and Steelers, if history's told me anything, they're somehow going to like sneak into the playoffs like just above 500 and lose in the first round. Like that's what they do. The Bills, like out of that division, is it going to be the Bills or is it going to be the Patriots? I don't know.
Yeah.
I will give you this. Not to hype up the Patriots. I wouldn't want to play Mike Vrabel's defense. He'll figure out some stuff. Like Vrabel's going to put together a package. The problem is on the opposite side. I think Spag would torment Drake May for a game of football. And
also Ramondre Stevenson can't be trusted.
Oh my gosh,
with a football right now.
And Travion Henderson can't be trusted to block. My dude looked like a robot out there. Literally, dude ran right past him and he was just like looking off in the space. It was bad. I can see why he's not getting on the field. Like everyone was questioning it, but you start seeing some clips and you're like, yep, I totally get why he's not seeing the field. So I like the Chiefs. NFC, dude, it's hard to argue against your Baker pick.
Yeah.
Like until he slows down. And dude, if they get healthy on the wide receiver side, like they already look good with backups. But if Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Ibuka, Tez Johnson, all those guys are healthy and they get back Bucky, good luck.
The only problem that I hate about choosing the Bucks is just look at last year. Last year they had the NFC South locked down, and then they lose stupid games. They had the shootout against the Saints. They lost to the Falcons twice, and you're just like, what are you guys doing? Like there's going to be those division games where you're just like, what are they doing right now?
I agree. I just new year, new Baker. Well, same Baker, just better. Yeah. So it's hard, but we'll get to see the teams that I think can compete are definitely being shown, and the teams that were easily sort of being like, no, not their year, definitely being shown even more. So that being said, that wraps up week 7. You got anything else?
Nope.
All right. Until next time, Football Talks. We'll see you guys next week.